Hello and welcome to The Perspective. I'm your host Rafae, Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on the politics of Pakistan with regards to the PTI protests that were held very recently. And of course, the situation, it's moved down today with regards to the press briefing by the Interior Minister Mustafa Baloch as well. If you talk about the backdrop of these protests and how these tensions, they got to new heights. The protests by the PTI were announced in Islamabad and different cities of Punjab. With regards to that, the Chief Minister Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Ali Amin Gandapur led the protesters to Islamabad. He removed the barricades with heavy machinery, but in a surprising move, abruptly left all the protesters and the party workers to go to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa house. After that, there was speculation regarding the Ali Amin Gandapur's arrest, which of course the Interior Minister Mustafa Baloch refuted by saying he is not in government custody. In regards to that, there was a lot of clashes by the protesters with the police, and of course we saw that there was pelting of stones, and the people confronted the police as the police were deployed for the security of government property and life of the people. With regards to that, we know that the PTI had continued marching towards D Chowk in Islamabad, and confrontations with the police and the law enforcement agencies, they continued, and we know that they resorted to heavy stone pelting at the policemen as well. A new FIR has been launched in Taxila against the founder PTI and 105 others in light of these violent protests. The PTI's protesters clashed with the police, and in regards to that, the Interior Minister, what he had to say, he informed that Constable Abdul Hamid Shah of Islamabad Police was martyred as a result of the violence by the PTI protesters. The IG Islamabad, the Inspector General of Islamabad Police, stated that 30 personnel of Punjab Police was injured, along with 75 personnel of the Islamabad Police which were wounded in regards to this stone pelting by the PTI protesters. He also said that a crackdown will be started against all those who took part in this violence. Another major development was the statement from spokesperson of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government, Barrister Saif, in which he invited the Indian External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar to participate in the PTI protest and also address their protest. These are disappointing statements of course, the government representatives, the cabinet ministers. They also expressed and condemned these statements and acts by the PTI. The Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar said the timing of these protests by the PTI is condemnable. There were other statements with regards to the Information Minister as well. He said these attempts are to sabotage the SCO summit in the country. We also saw similar statements coming from different cabinet ministers. We'll deliberate on all the different aspects of the political situation with regards to the PTI protests and the developments that have ensued since then. In the studios, we have been joined by Aniq Zafar, political analyst. Along with that, we have been joined by Mustafa Baloch, leader of the Pakistan People's Party on Skype. And we've also been joined by Muneeb Qadir, political analyst on Skype. Along with that, we have been joined by Dr. Niaz Murtaza, who is on phone line with us. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting off from Mr. Aniq Zafar. With regards to the PTI's protest, of course, we know that there's a lot going on in the country with regards to the government's efforts for economic revitalization. There's a lot of efforts to strengthen Pakistan's ties with its friendly countries, and we know that diplomatic efforts have also been put in regarding that. Of course, there was the Prime Minister's speech at the United Nations General Assembly as well. We saw how Pakistan was maneuvering international support for itself, and of course, the issues that Pakistan raises that are of global concern. But with regards to so many efforts by the government, we know that economic stability comes with political stability. The diplomatic stability comes with political stability. How do you comment on the politics PTI is pursuing at this moment with regards to the overall situation of the country and the country's national interests?
Well, we have been viewing PTI as a political party since 2011, when it really started building itself into a proper political force. And the peak of their politics was 2014, when they staged a sit-in in Islamabad for 126 days or so. Since then, what we have seen is that they have, whether they are in the government or in the opposition, they are a party which likes to play very aggressive and will always like to be on the streets. If they are in the opposition, they'll try to keep the government on tenterhooks by creating these events. And obviously, in this particular situation, they have provincial government with them because it is led by their party. So they are utilizing its resources to mobilize people. What we have seen over the last 2-3 days is that in Punjab there was not enough momentum. Yesterday there was a call for Lahore. It was a damp affair. But in Islamabad, obviously the Chief Minister KP was leading a rally from there, and that is the spillover which reached Islamabad was from that rally. There were a few local workers also, I'm not denying that, but the majority, the aggressive crowd was coming from there. So coming back to the point that what kind of impact it creates. It does create an impact on Pakistan's situation, particularly at a time when some international dignitaries were already visiting, and then more dignitaries are coming in. So this creates an impression that Pakistan is politically unstable. Pakistan is unstable. Okay, fine, I am ready to agree to that. But now the crisis is that our stakeholders, including the government and PTI, they have somehow forgotten how to engage constructively and positively and create some middle ground. I wish that these stakeholders could sit down and create a bare minimum consensus. Otherwise, given PTI's track record, they will continue to create such occasions. There is some understanding perhaps within the government and the administration, political side of the government and the administrative side of the government, that perhaps they can tire PTI out, exhaust its resources, and then they can sit down with them. But I think it's time that we should engage in serious dialogue instead of as a resident of Islamabad, Rawalpindi, and as a resident of Pakistan, I like Pakistani people to focus more on their livelihood, on their economy, and Pakistan should also, as a state, focus on its economy and deliverance for the people. If we continue in this protest mode, I think it will be very difficult to deliver.
That's some very important points that you raised, Mr. Aniq, with regards to, of course, how there's the problems of for the people of Islamabad and Rawalpindi, and there were also problems for the people in different cities where the protests were being held with regards to a normal mobility and their access to different roads, and of course how they could travel. And it was a commotion with regards to that. There was an order by the Islamabad High Court, as the Traders Welfare Association president had also filed a petition. But as you mentioned, dialogue, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he offered an olive branch to Umar Ayub of the opposition branch, but even though that olive branch was offered, we still saw that these protests, this radical politics, this politics of hate, continued. With regards to that, Mustafa Baloch, how would you comment? As the PTI, as Mr. Aniq also mentioned, the PTI is known for its politics of protest. But earlier we saw that its emphasis was used to be on peaceful protests, but that has now changed. What do you think caused that?
See, Rafae, actually the point is PTI and its leader Imran Khan they are hell-bent to damage the global image of Pakistan. Since 2011, what we are witnessing that this party is all about agitation and protest. They don't have any plans. They don't have any improvement or sort of political wisdom to make something good for Pakistan or to create a peaceful atmosphere here in Pakistan. What we are seeing is like what we saw, Barrister Saif, who is the legal political advisor and information advisor of CM KPK. He literally invited Jaishankar, who is the former foreign minister of India, to participate in that protest. So what else What else proof what we want, that that this party is working against the agenda of progress and prosperity of Pakistan. They are inviting someone who is supposedly you know he's against Pakistan, and what we have seen, that Jaishankar has given kind of very negative remarks against Pakistan, and he I don't know, he's attending the SEO summit, but inviting him for in the protest is, I think, it's absolutely bizarre. So what we are witnessing is that this whole of this protest of PTI was just to damage the image of Pakistan, and whatever the government is doing, whatever efforts the government is making to rebuild the economy, which they damaged actually, which PTI damaged in that tenure. The government is working hard to, I think, rebuild the fragile economy of Pakistan. But what we are seeing, that PTI, after even getting a province they are in power in KPK, and still we don't see that they have learned any sort of lesson. What they are wanting is just to create an anarchy in Pakistan.
Right. Regards to that, I'd like to include comments from Muneeb Qadir as well. Of course, we know that after the vote of no confidence, PTI built a narrative with regards to American interference in Pakistan's internal affairs. A journey from that up till now, when we see the PTI's own the spokesperson to the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government inviting the Indian External Affairs Minister to address the PTI's protest. How do you comment on that?
Absolutely. I think it's extremely shameful. Barrister Saif from PTI, he recently asked for the Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar, who will be visiting Pakistan for the SEO summit. He asked for the Indian Foreign Minister to intervene during his visit to Pakistan, to intervene in Pakistani politics, to intervene on behalf of PTI. And I think that this is utterly shameful. Also because, during the SEO summit, whilst we are hosting it, we have to put up a united front. And Indian media coverage is extremely hostile as well when it comes to Pakistan and Pakistani national cohesion. And it's exactly that kind of cohesion which such political rhetoric as, the one that came from PTI's KP spokesperson, jeopardizes, puts it at risk. And so we need to put up our best foot forward during the upcoming SEO visit. And it appears, I might be reading too much into it, perhaps I might be wrong, that only time will tell, but it appears as if the PTI is hell-bent upon sabotaging the upcoming SEO visit. Pakistan needs to, I think, gain stability as far as, its foreign ties go, as far as its international relations go, and it cannot be compromised. And our global standing also needs that kind of stability. We cannot have guest states visiting us and feeling that there is a civil war-like situation in Pakistan, and there is no civil war going on. That we cannot allow such miscreants and political parties which have their own selfish motives to present an image of there being some sort of an anarchy or civil war-like situation going on in Pakistan, because that is far from the truth. And also, as far as this narrative that the PTI has peddled, that they are the ones who have stood up against American hegemony, just seems very insincere, considering that it's the PTI which has been lobbying the US administration and US lawmakers to speak on their behalf, to intervene in Pakistani political matters, in Pakistan's internal matters on PTI's behalf. And then it's really surprising that, the CM of KP, Ali Amin Gandapur, in one of his recent extremely incendiary statements said that Imran Khan happens to be in jail, or that the PTI leader happens to be in jail, or that PTI went out of government because of American conspiracy. So they are at the same time concurrently trying to present America as the bad guy, as the villain, which plotted and schemed their ouster from power, and at the same time they are seeking shelter among American lawmakers and American government to speak on their behalf. You cannot be putting out such contradictory statements. So, mayhem, violence, anarchy, it's just basic thing. How did the PTI so-called peaceful protesters come into possession of tear gas? whilst they were protesting yesterday in Islamabad. That raises a huge question mark. So many people have been arrested who are part of, PTI's movement yesterday, the so-called protest. How come that they were in possession of weapons? Where are their supplies coming from? So all of that raises a huge question mark over PTI's genuineness. Whether this is a genuine movement as such, whether they are really stepping out for this freedom that they're talking about, and freedom from whom exactly? They haven't quite specified that either. So are they really committed to improving the political situation in Pakistan, democracy in Pakistan, or are they only intent upon creating a situation of havoc, wreaking havoc in the country just because they aren't getting things done their way?
Definitely a point very well made, Muneeb. I'd like to include Dr. Niaz Murtaza in the conversation as well. So how do you comment on the PTI's protest at such a critical time when there's such an important event scheduled to be held in the country? And I'm talking about the SCO summit. And of course, when we talk about the SCO summit, we know there's going to be premiers and heads of governments from different countries coming in. We also know that the External Affairs Minister from India is going to be coming in as a state guest with regards to the SCO summit. How do you comment on PTI them aligning state guests in their own politics for their personal gains?
Well, I think there is a lot of blame that can be assigned on both sides, and I agree with a lot of things that, the other speakers have said about, the belligerence of PTI in the 2014 Dharna after the VONC against it and all the American conspiracy, and, all of those things were condemnable. But then it's also true that in the current situation, it also has some legitimate grievances, and there have also been provocations from the government side. There are still issues about, how free and legitimate the February 8th elections were. Then, the issue of reserve seat. Then, the cases against PTI leaders, which are all falling apart. So the thing to remember is that, who has more to lose? PTI has almost been run to the ground and, it's become desperate. But who's more interested in political stability? It is the government. And, we expect more maturity from a party which has, power in its hand, which has more stakes in hand. So I would encourage, both parties to step away from their extremist sides, recognize their own mistakes instead of just pointing out the mistakes of each other, and try to, enter into some kind of a dialogue. I think the first speaker mentioned it very, very correctly that, we
can talk about dialogue. The Prime Minister, he offered an olive branch to the opposition, one of the leaders of the opposition, Umar Ayub, but the response from the PTI, it remained the same.
And statements that I saw from, say the Defense Minister, he was saying it's a terrorist organization, we will never talk with it. So have a coherent, voice on the issue, and, let the saner voices prevail on both sides, and try to, enter into a dialogue, because there is plenty of blame to be assigned on both sides. Both sides have to show maturity for the sake of the country and try to, reduce the level of polarization and conflict for the sake of the country. And
there should be dialogue, but of course, my question is regarding to that. When we talk about dialogue, the government, the Prime Minister himself offered an olive branch, but we know the response which came from PTI side. They wanted to have dialogue with the establishment rather. How do you comment on that? When we talk about dialogue, of course, the government, the benches, they have offered that dialogue to them, but the PTI wouldn't respond to that.
Definitely wrong of PTI. They should be looking to only talk with political forces. They should not try to, talk about the establishment or anybody. And that's a severe criticism that can be made of PTI. But again, there are other, extremist forces on the government side as well, saying that, it should be declared as a terrorist party, banned and all that. We need saner voices to prevail on both sides.
The extremist elements on the other side that use the resources of one province and of course to lead protests at the federal capital.
Definitely, they should also be sidelines within the PTI, and the saner elements on both sides have to prevail and try to, take the country out of this huge mess.
Right. Mr. Aniq, how do you comment when we talk about dialogue?
On a lighter note, my friend Mr. Niaz Murtaza said that those elements who are aggressive on the other side should be sidelined. So I'm going to comment that if we sideline those people, then there will be no PTI, because that means that the top leader of PTI will have to be sidelined. That's a lighter comment. Anyhow, so coming back to the point of dialogue. So what we are increasingly missing in Pakistan's context is that currently there is no personality which is towering enough and which could be trusted by all stakeholders within the politics of Pakistan, all the political parties and major political players. So that has become a major crisis. Previously, perhaps in the 90s and in early 2000s even, there were some personalities which were sort of respected across the aisle, and you could sort of speak with them, and they could bring together people on the table. Now, currently, we do not have that kind of trust available in any individual or organization or institution or whatever increasingly, what is happening is that political polarization is cutting now across all institutions, all sections of the society, academia, intellectuals, bars. So we are in a situation where possibility of people coming together is decreasing. So somehow we have to break this logjam. I will reiterate here that that there is more onus on the government, because it's always the government which has to lose more if there is a continuous political instability in the country. But here I think even PTI must realize that currently they have no other strategy besides this strategy of creating chaos and continuous mobilization of their workers.
Street politics.
Street politics. They should also come up with an alternative strategy, that how can they maneuver within the given constraints. They may be under constraints, that's fine, but they are not the first political party in the history of Pakistan which has faced such constraints. There have been other parties who slowly and gradually came out and developed some kind of understanding with other stakeholders. Without that, in Pakistan's history, I don't think there has been any success for any political party if it becomes a lone warrior. In the past, when political parties faced such a situation, they tried to build alliances. PTI has not really been able to build an alliance.
It's a one-man
like
show.
for example, they did build an alliance. There is Mahmood Achakzai, there is Akhtar Mengal. They have been flirting with Maulana Fazlur Rahman as well. But look at the current situation in the last 3-4 days. Mahmood Achakzai or Akhtar Mengal or Maulana Fazlur Rahman, they were not part of the whole momentum which PTI wanted to develop. PTI was on its own. So PTI also needs to understand that it needs to find people which can stand. If it is reluctant to engage itself with other political stakeholders, it can use those people to engage with political stakeholders. This has been done by various political parties in the past by building alliances. So that is a way forward, I think, which PTI should be looking at.
Definitely. With regards to that, I'd like comments from Mustafa Baloch. Of course, when we talk about the whole situation, we also know that the leadership in Punjab, when there was calls for protest by the PTI, we know that the Punjab leadership couldn't amass as much people as they were expected to do. And in regards to that, the dependency of PTI on Ali Amin Gandapur with regards to getting mobilizing the people from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and bringing in their protesters, their people, the party workers from KP to whatever the menu of the protest practice. We also know that in regards to that, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister has been very actively engaging the province's resources, and of course we know that the tone that Ali Amin Gandapur has had with regards to the protests, how he has been addressing all these gatherings, and of course we also know that a police constable of Islamabad, the police constable of Islamabad, he was martyred during these protests. What is going to happen? How are these tensions going to diffuse? Because of course for the PTI, the Punjab leadership couldn't gather as much people as they were expecting to. There's dependence on the KP faction, Ali Amin Gandapur faction for it, which is of course very radical in their politics, and has led to the martyrdom of one policeman in the clashes even that happened over the weekend. How do you comment on that, on PTI's politics, and how it can even move towards reconciliation with the government?
See, actually, Rafae, the point is, since 2011, what we are witnessing is the same kind of policy which PTI has, is just about agitational politics. Right now, they just want Imran Khan to be released, and I think this is a bizarre, idea of PTI to get him released by a protest. He can only be released by courts. So this way, I think they are only losing the little bit credibility which they have left. And I think with 90 seats in National Assembly and a province of KPK, they are ruling the province. They should rather focus on the development work and rather focus on the prosperity of KPK. I think they have the opportunity to work over there, but I don't think so. They want to work. They don't want to deliver. They just want to create chaos. And whatever happened with the police constable of Islamabad, it's absolutely upsetting. And I think the law will obviously take its course. And what we are seeing, that the Islamabad police is working efficiently, and it's a capital of Pakistan. They have to protect it. The chief minister of KPK, I think he wanted to conquer Islamabad. I don't know, but the optics were very, very upsetting. And and apart from that, inviting a foreign minister of India to participate in that protest, it was absolutely absurd. And I think they should apologize on this thing. They should apologize, and they should take this statement back, because this will haunt them in times to come. And I think with the way they are bad mouthing the CM of Punjab, and she's a competent lady, and I think she's working hard. So I mean, you can have political differences, but you cannot just go below the belt. And this is what Khan Sahib has, taught his followers. And what else can we expect from Gandapur? And what else can we expect from PTI? I mean, they don't have a political upbringing. The party doesn't have a political structure. So I don't think so. This party can be. And secondly, I think hats off to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who is still trying to negotiate and create an atmosphere that where we can work together. But I don't think so. PTI has any credibility left. And the second tier of leadership of PTI is nowhere in ground. You won't see any MPs or MNAs protesting. So all these, the people of the Punjab or KPK, whatever people they brought for the protest. I feel pity on them, because they are being used. They are being used, and Khan Sahib just wants himself to be released. His only agenda is his personal, relief. He's not worried about Pakistan. He's not worried about the youth of Pakistan who are like who are going through hell with these kind of economic challenges. I mean, he should have showed some grace by facing the conviction and challenges. I mean, we the Pakistan People's Party, we have faced the worst situation, but we have never, taken law in our hands. We have faced the consequences. Our two leaders were martyred, but we faced the challenges.
It's courage
Still
to
working
the
on
allegations
the democracy.
against
My
you in
leader,
court.
Lawal Bhutto, is working on the constitutional, constitutional betterment of Pakistan. We want to create a better environment for the future generation of Pakistan. We want to create a a positive environment for the people of Pakistan, because this is the time. It's high time. We can't just give this kind of atmosphere, this kind of political chaotic atmosphere for the future of Pakistan. We
Definitely,
have
Mustafa
to give
Baloch.
them a
Point very well made. I'd also like to include comments from Muneeb in this with regards to that. As you also mentioned that the PTI leadership has left its people standing alone. It has left its people isolated. We also saw the protests over the weekend. The people were brought out to the streets, but the leadership himself, the Chief Minister KP Ali Amin Gandapur himself, he left the people and abruptly, in a surprising move, went to the KP house. The people were left there alone. And of course, with regards to dialogue, we also know that the PTI leadership has been bringing the people out, but of course, it's not there to lead them. And at the same time, when there's talk of dialogue with the narrative that PTI has been pushing, how do you see that way going forward within the party and for its supporters itself? Because the leadership has not been communicating that well to their supporters, to their workers, and what has been going on at the top tier level.
PTI has always had this habit of throwing its own supporters and followers under the bus, and so I really feel for people who blindly follow whatever narratives are meted out to and dished out to PTI followers. I have sympathies for them in the sense that they are being misled, and terribly so. You've just pointed out that Ali Amin Gandapur just rushed to KP House in Islamabad, and his own followers were stranded, and they were left alone to fight a fight which really does not have any cause other than personally benefiting those within the top tier leadership of PTI. And in the process, what really happens? What happens is that, as you have mentioned earlier, an Islamabad police officer called Abdul Halim Shah, he lost his life. He was martyred in the line of duty. And at the same time, PTI's followers, they are being misdirected. They are being fed on anger, on hatred, but this anger is misdirected. And we just saw in the past few weeks and past few days that PTI followers had been eating donuts, posting videos of eating donuts, because they were very happy about the Chief Justice of Pakistan having been verbally harassed at a local donut shop. So these kinds of things, I think, they only add fuel to the fire. And then right now there are such conflicting statements coming from within PTI leadership about the whereabouts of CM Gandapur, that he has either gone missing, or that he has disappeared, or that he has been arrested. Barrister Saif says one thing, and then Asad Kaisar says another, and then they are issuing threats that they would be holding nationwide protests without obtaining any NOCs to that effect. If within the next 48 hours the CM of KP is not produced, we have to keep in mind that Ali Amin Gandapur a few weeks ago was talking about disobeying the constitution, and he said that he does not believe in the constitution. And that kind of rhetoric does not help. The KPCM was saying that they would resort to violence if Imran Khan were not released in the next 14-15 days. Again, very unhelpful language, adds fuel to the fire, as I've said. And I don't mean to say that Ali Amin Gandapur deserves to go missing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you need to be coherent in what you're saying. Is there any evidence to the effect that the whereabouts of KP CM are not known? Has he really gone missing, or has he gone away voluntarily? Where has he gone away? There's video footage of him leaving his KP house in Islamabad voluntarily, coming into it voluntarily. And this has happened a few weeks ago as well, that they were crying foul, that they were saying that the KPCM has gone, but he was later to be found somewhere else. And he said that, he was away for a prayer or something. So there has to be coherent narrative that is being peddled by PTI. And given the incoherence, given that they take a U-turn every now and then, they can't stick to one version of events. They just say at the spot whatever suits their narrative. I think that makes them very unreliable narrators. And at the same time, I would also like to point out the fact that, many people think that the KPCM has immunity from the reach of the law. Just because he holds a particular position, he should not be brought within the four walls of the law. That is a misconception. Even somebody who's serving as a chief minister is supposed to and is under an obligation, even more so than anyone else, to be held accountable before the law. A CM cannot be saying that he disregards the constitution openly, and he cannot be threatening, the state with violence if he doesn't get his way. So these things need to be kept in mind. And at the same time, the government also has to ensure that all protests, they are held. Those who are peacefully protesting be allowed to protest. If they are not protesting peacefully, there has to be legal process of dealing with them. These slogans and threats, they are not helpful in an already extremely polarized political environment. Now that, the IMF loan has been secured, now that the facts and figures are seeming to be taking an upward trajectory, more the reason that we need national and social cohesion in our political arena.
Definitely, Muneeb Qadir, a point very well made. I'd like to include comments from Dr. Niaz as well. Sir, as we know and as we are talking about it, how do you comment on how the conversation has shaped up so far? And of course, as mentioned as well, that PTI, it has the right to protest. The Interior Minister also said, but only peaceful protest, which it did not account to. How would you talk about that?
Well, if I compare PTI's aggressive and confrontational attitude, it reminds me of PMLN back in 1988. And Mr. Mustafa Baloch may remember how confrontational PMLN was against Mohtarma's first government. He was the chief minister and she was the prime minister. But he mellowed, and today what do you see? PPP and PMLN are coalition partners. Could anybody have imagined that in 1988? And you were saying there's no leader left of that stature who can bring everybody together. I think there is one leader, and that is Nawaz Sharif. I still remember in 2013, JUI was egging on Nawaz Sharif not to let PTI form its government in KPI. But he said, no, it's PTI's right, let them form the government. Why can't he do the same today and say these reserve seats belong to PTI, let's just give it to them. The Supreme Court has given the order, but neither the government and neither the ECP are willing to implement it. Just remember in 2017, the Supreme Court had given such a wrong order to displace Mr. Nawaz Sharif from premiership, and he still accepted the order. He did not defy it. And what is the PMLN government doing it? Openly defying SC orders. So let Mr. Nawaz Sharif, he's gone into the background. He should come into the foreground and tell his party, let PTI have some of its rights like reserve seats. Imran Khan is in jail today, not because of any conviction, but just because of, the NAB law that anybody can be put into jail for months and months and months. Now, I know PTI did that to
democracy,
PMLN.
even with Benazir Bhutto. Do you think anyone from the other side, anyone from PTI side, is going to be willing to sit down and talk with Nawaz Sharif? Because we know that Nawaz Sharif can be willing to talk because he's a man of democracy, he's a statesman.
He went to Imran Khan's house, so he has that stature. Similarly, Zardari Saab is known as, the master of the politics of reconciliation. So let these two leaders, they are our elderly leaders. Let them, think of reconciliation and, find a way. And, just as, Imran Khan had, met with him at his house, I hope he will do the same and try to, meet but these people have to take the initiative and show some willingness to start on the path of reconciliation and give some of the things that belong really to PTI, like the reserve seats and so on. And I hope that will start the process. But again, yes, there's a lot wrong with PTI's confrontational attitude, and it also has to, come down from its high horse, recognize, that it has no moral high ground compared to parties like PPP and PMLN, and it should also, not insist on talking only to the establishment.
Right. Thank you for your valuable insights, Dr. Niaz Murtaza. Always appreciated, of course. With regards to that, Mr. Aniq Zafar, reconciliation, how do you see that happening from this point on?
Well, as Dr. Niaz Murtaza said, that there has to be some initiative by senior most political leaders. He has mentioned, of course, President Zardari and former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who also is the head of his party. These are two very influential figures. But again, question is that will the other side be ready to engage with them? Because other side has built up its whole politics on maligning these two personalities, and their whole sport base believes that these people are pariahs and they should not be touched with a barge pole. So how does leadership in PTI, particularly Mr. Imran Khan, walks back and agrees to speak to these people, and the one way of doing all these things is backdoor talks first, before these big guns come out and start making public appearances that they are willing to do that. I am aware that in the past there, for example, immediately after the Feb 8 elections, as Dr. Niaz Murtaza was mentioning about 2013, that Nawaz Sharif was approached by some people from KP Assembly that there is a possibility that if we join hand, we can make a government. And Nawaz Sharif said that no, majority party is PTI and they should form the government. Similarly, there was a sense post Feb 8 results, there was an effort by some political forces to engage PTI and bring them to the table and try and discuss that whether they will be willing to join hand with these political forces to form a government. And there was a stern no from Mr. Khan the next day, and all the backdoor contacts stopped. So again, all the parties will have to find that those people who can first talk on the in the background, and then convince their leadership to come on the forefront and try to engage and conclude some kind of agreement. But this requires lots of statesmanship, lots of sagacity, political maturity, and I hope our leadership across all political parties can listen to our advice.
So one small answer for one small question. Do you also see the MQM and JUIF taking part in this reconciliation process?
Of course, they are important stakeholders and they should be part of it. But since they are smaller players in the game, perhaps Maulana Fazlur Rahman can also play a role, because he is respected by Mr. Zardari, by Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and now he has gained some credibility with PTI, also some credibility, if they, if I may use that word. But again, whether PTI will be ready to fully trust Mr. Fazlur Rahman. I had sort of believed that Mr. Mahmood Khan Achakzai, who is a veteran politician, will be a good influence on PTI. But again, as I mentioned, that somehow Mr. Achakzai-led political alliance has been pushed to the back, and it's Mr. Gandapur and all that. And over the last few years, one of the problem with Mr. Achakzai is that he has sort of veered way too much into to Pashtun nationalism instead of keeping his national stature.
Well, we'll deliberate on that some other time, as of course we're running short on time. Mr. Aniq Zafar, thank you for your insights and of course your valuable contributions. With that, that sums up Pakistan's political situation at the moment. And I'd like to thank all of our guests, Mr. Aniq Zafar, political analyst, Mustafa Baloch, leader of the Pakistan People's Party, and Muneeb Qadir, political analyst. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. That wraps up The Perspective for today. See you same time next week. Till then, take care.